Hi everyone! So today's video, if you hadn't already guessed by the title, is going to be about my debut novel, Nightmare Scenario. So since you probably don't know, as at the time of filming this I have a grand total of 4 subscribers, one of which is me, that I subscribed to myself accidentally on a different account, but I didn't want to unsubscribe from myself and hurt my own feelings. Anyway, my name is Hazel and I'm a PhD student and published author, and when I have the time I make videos that help people with either writing, PhDs, or some other random stuff to do with Miraculous Ladybug. Today we'll be sticking with the writing side of things and we'll be talking about how I got the idea for my book, what it was like writing it, and how I got it published. So my book, Nightmare Scenario, came out on the 10th of October 2019, so last October, and if anyone's wondering, no, my book was not published as a result of my dazzling YouTube career. As I already stated at the time of filming this, I have 4 subscribers, so it hasn't been like a publisher saw me and was like, oh, she'll make a great writer and loads of people will buy her book. Not to be shady, but I approached agents and publishers myself and got it published off my own back, and after I think it took about 3 years from finishing it until I found someone who wanted to publish it. So yeah, it's not as a result of YouTube. So the book was published, it came out in October last year, and I didn't start my YouTube channel till February this year, so obviously they're not a result of each other. So Nightmare Scenario, which was originally titled The Nightmare Scenario, but we took out the. So it's a young adult science fiction romance book. So it's set in London in 2047. And there are other things going on, but the basic premise of the story is that the main character, who's called Gracie, hears 3 voices in her head and they make her play these horrible nightmare scenarios every single night. She's having a horrible time, she's just started university, she's 18, it's not great. Then one day a new voice comes in and his name is Kai and he's really nice to her. These are his eyes, he has blue eyes. And she starts to fall in love with him, even though he's only a voice inside her head. She knows that he's not real. So that's the main plot point. There are other stuff going on. So in this world there are androids. So Gracie has this android called Macy who's really funny and kind of malfunctions all the time. There are other androids. A lot of the teachers at her university are androids, some aren't though. There are security androids. There are just like general housework and service user androids who can print things out of the side of their hip, like Macy, because she's a housemaid model android. She has a toaster in the side of her hip because I honestly don't know why I made that decision. Another conceit of the world, and by conceit in science fiction, a conceit means like something you change about this world and it's like a new thing in the other world. So obviously an android, we don't really have them here, not in England anyway, so an android would be a conceit of the world. So another conceit is this thing called the Hourglass Watch, and they are a strapless watch that is surgically attached to your wrist, from birth by the way. So it's required by law, it has like a tracking device in it, so there's a lot less crime in England in 2047. Because everyone knows where everyone is. Well, not everyone. The police knows where everyone is, so if you commit a crime, they can just look at who is at that location at the time it was committed and then go and arrest you because they can track you and know where you are. So the final like big conceit of the world is that in between now and 2047, I can never remember the year, I don't want to say the wrong year, it says in the book if you want to know, I have a feeling it's 2023, but I could be wrong. So there's a new terrorist organisation and they don't bomb the entire network, but they destroy enough of the most major stations that the government at the time does not have enough money to repair it, so they just close the entire network. However, several years later, but still before 2047, there have been new advancements in this thing called quantum levitation, which is a levitation using really strong magnets. So now in 2020, from what I've seen from my research and stuff, it doesn't levitate that far off the ground, but in 2047 my hope that they could levitate much further away from each other. So instead of the London Underground, we now have the London Airground, because we already have the London Overground, so I couldn't call it the Overground, it has to be the Airground. So now the trains levitate 10 metres off the ground and then come back down to the ground. They levitate back down when it gets to the station, which is kind of more like a bus shelter that people wait at, and they get on and off the train there. In the second and third book, because it is a trilogy, there's more stuff about the hourglass and the trains, both the Airground and the Underground, and more stuff about the androids. So I've actually literally just finished writing the second book, so I've sent it off to my publisher to read. She's going to send it back to me soon with some edits to do. I'm actually really happy with it. I think it's better than the first one. But in order to understand what happens in the second one, you have to of course read the first one. So initially the book wasn't going to be a science fiction book. It was just going to be a straight romance. It was going to be about Gracie and the voices and her falling in love with this one voice. And this idea came from my own mental health. So in England, if you're not from England, when you're 17, 18, if you decide to go, you take your final exams at college if you do A-levels instead of BTEC. And I did A-levels. And it stressed me out a lot. Not gonna lie. They were hard exams, and I'm usually okay with exams, but I tried to enjoy my time at college, but I just didn't like it very much. It did stress me out, and honestly it wasn't great for my mental health. So I only actually had 4 exams right at the end. So I'd done 3 of them. It's my final exam. And the exam was kind of like split in half. So it was a drama and theatre studies exam. And I was prepared for the exam. Honestly, it was the one I was looking forward to the most. I had 2 psychology exams, which, if any of you have ever done psychology, in England at least, you'll know it's more, at college level anyway, it's more of a how much can you memorise exam rather than any skill. It's really about how good your memory is. I also did English literature, so I had an English literature exam, and you're not allowed to take the texts in with you to an English literature A-level, or at the time I did it anyway. But yeah, it was not fun. As much as I love literature, I mean I'm doing a part literature PhD, I obviously do like literature. Not under that much stress. I don't like literature. Honestly, the theatre studies exam wasn't that bad because A, I really liked the plays we were doing, and we were allowed to take the texts in. So out of the 4 exams I did, it was definitely the easiest exam. So we were all sat in the college gym and the exam was 2 hours long. And after the first hour, I just took a minute, went allowed to take in water, I had some water or whatever. And I just sat there. And I heard this voice. And it wasn't super loud, and I looked around me because, you know, we're in an exam. There's about, I don't know, maybe 100, 150 other students in there, some exam invigilators, but no one else is looking around to find this voice. I heard it again a few more times, a bit louder each time, and still no one else is looking up. And that's when I realised no one else can hear it, it's only me, because it's coming from inside my head. So I finished the exam. I didn't really hang around. I left, I got out of there. And, you know, I thought the voices were due to the stress, which turns out they kind of were a bit. But it was very scary. They got the worst at night, like just before I went to bed. Like I'd go upstairs, spend an hour or so, you know, doing my own thing on my laptop and stuff. And then when I lay down to go to sleep, that's when I would hear them. So at first it started really slowly with just, it was a male voice saying very short 1-syllable words, but then it escalated until I was hearing 3 voices. 2 male, 1 female, and it was pretty scary. So a few weeks later, I finally told my mum, and we managed to get like an emergency mental health referral appointment. So we went to it, and they were very concerned, as you can imagine. But obviously, due to the circumstances of being at college, and I was very stressed by it all, the voices were due to stress. And it's actually quite common in England for teenagers and adults who are under extreme stress, whether at home or at work or education or whatever. It's very common for them to hear voices or hallucinate, especially at night when they're trying to relax. So it was a common thing. So yeah, I was worried because it was scary, but I wasn't really worried about myself that much. And I was put on medication and I hoped it would go away. So that was when I was 17 years old. I am now 23. They haven't gone away. I still hear them every single day. I can hear them right now. And for a while I didn't go back to the doctors about it because I've been told by several people before that I'm a liar, that I'm lying about this. I'm not. You know, I don't really care if people think I'm lying, like, I know it's true, I don't care if no one else believes me. But I did go back to the doctors recently and they're not sure what it is either, because if it is down to stress it should have just stopped by now. So they've ruled out psychosis so far, or they've said if it is psychosis, it's not like a type of psychosis they've seen before. And they're not sure about schizophrenia. Honestly, from what I've managed to glean from them, they don't think that it's either. So they're certain that they know what it's not, but they also have no idea what it is. So I'm still waiting to hear back from them. I don't know what the next step is. But yeah, I've learnt to live with it, but at the time I wrote this book, I guess I was still struggling to deal with it because of the stigma attached to hearing voices. It's still pretty big, and it's actually a lot of what my PhD is about. The book was a way to deal with it, as before I started writing it, it wasn't going to be a science fiction novel. It was just going to be a mental health book with romance in. That was all it was going to be. And I just had the basic idea with 3 voices, make her play these scenarios. She falls in love with a voice inside her head. So the voices in the book are called Eros, Terry and Psyche. Those are the 3 horrible ones. And they are the same names as the voices inside my head. And I tried to keep them like close as possible to what I hear, but not so close that it would I guess be detrimental to my own mental health. So I was going to write it, like I said, as a way to deal with it. And at the time I had the idea for the book, I was in my 2nd year of my undergraduate degree at university. So I was 19 years old by this point, and I went to Liverpool John Moores University and I studied creative writing. So I finished there now, obviously I'm doing my PhD, not there though. And we did this module that literally everybody took because it was amazing, and it was an amazing module. And it's called Fantastic Worlds, and it was all about science fiction and fantasy world building. So every single week we do something really different. So one week we learn how to terraform a planet, another week we'd learn about like water systems and how, if you were using a new world, how the water currents would work and stuff like that. It was really interesting. I didn't enjoy every week because, like, honestly, fantasy isn't my favourite thing. I'm not a big fan of like hard fantasy, like Lord of the Rings, or like Harry Potter. I like that, where it's a lot softer. I really enjoy that. But honestly I prefer science fiction, and I do also enjoy hard science fiction. But I knew if I was ever going to write a science fiction book, it was going to be a soft science fiction book. Definitely not hard. I'm not intelligent enough to write a hard science fiction book. And I am correct, I am not intelligent enough to write a hard science fiction book. This is very, very soft sci-fi. Okay? If you struggle with science fiction books, you should be okay. There's nothing... It's not really super sciencey, because science was my worst subject at school. So, you should be okay. Give it a read. The assignments for this module. So the first thing was a presentation on either our world or someone else's world. And if you're interested, I did the world of Attack on Titan, the anime and manga, which is a really fun presentation actually. I really enjoyed it. We also had to write an essay about our world, and then we had to write either the first chapter of a novel or a short story that was set in our world. I did the first chapter of my book, and honestly the first chapter in this isn't actually all that different to my assignment. So the assignment that my tutor read and marked is still the same. And I actually see my tutor sometimes on Facebook. I'm not friends with him, but but he's friends with other people from my class, and I'm always like, oh, shall I message him and let him know, like, oh hi, I got a book published as a result, I guess, of your module and the assignment I did for it. Because he was really helpful, the guy. He's super knowledgeable about like all things science fiction. But I haven't messaged him because I'm too scared. So yeah, I wrote the first chapter of the novel and I did an essay on it. So at this point, my book, the only idea I had for it was the voices. So I was like, voices alone, that's, I mean, it's a bit scary, I guess, but it's not really science fiction. So I had to add in other things. So I was like, right, okay, what can I do with this world with the voices? And I don't remember how I came up with the trains or the androids, but I was like, okay, we need some wearable technology in this world. I feel by 2047 a lot more people are gonna have wearable technology, and not necessarily just watches, maybe some wearable technology in the form of jewellery. No, a watch is arguably jewellery. So I was like, okay, let's have a look at watches. So there are several wearable watches on the market, and I looked at the Apple Watch. My brother has an Apple Watch, so I was like, perfect. So because I was procrastinating, I decided to draw it. And because I am also slightly stupid, I drew the watch face in the corner of the page. So because it was in the corner, I would only have room for one of the straps and not the other strap. So I was like, you know what? Everyone can wear a strapless watch because I'm too lazy to rub it out. Fun fact, I am also very lazy, even though I've written 2 novels. I am a very lazy person. So I gave my essay to my tutor before it was due in. He went through it, because originally it was set in 2027. He was like, all of this is fine, like all the watches and the trains and the androids. He said it's all fine, it would work, but it wouldn't work by 2027. You need at least 10 years. So I was like, we'll go for 2047. And he was fine with that. He said it's more plausible. So I was pretty happy about that. So I can't remember what mark I got overall, if you're interested. I could probably find it. But it was probably a high 2-1 or a low first. That tutor was known for not really giving out firsts. I actually had him for my first ever module at the university, and I think he gave me a high 2-1, and I was so disappointed in myself I didn't get a first. I was like, why? So I'll hold that against him forever. So that module was in the second semester, which is like January to April, May time. So for the first 4 weeks after the module ended, the semester ended, I had a 4-week internship at the university helping with some history research, and then I was like, I'm gonna write the novel. So whilst I was on my internship on the train in and out every day, I planned everything out, and originally this was 25 chapters long. So as soon as I finished my internship, for the next 24 days, because I mean it was originally 25 chapters but I had already written the first chapter, so for the next 24 days I wrote the entire novel, so 1 chapter every single day. It was great, I really enjoyed it. I actually wrote the second novel in the same way. The second novel is, I believe, oh gosh, I think it was 21 chapters. Again, I wrote it in 21 days. That's how we roll here. I've got a lot of things to do. Whilst I'm also lazy, I have a lot of things to do. So as much as I enjoy not doing anything, I don't have time to not do anything. I'm a PhD student, I have a job, I go to Chinese class, I also learn Korean. I've got a lot of things to do. I can't afford to sit around and no, we gotta get it done. So I finished the book when I was 19 in 21 days. I had a 2-week break, so 1 week I did absolutely nothing. 1 week later I went on holiday for a week, and then I came back, reread the full thing, did all my edits, and then it was done. For me, when I write, it's either pretty much almost there the first time I write it, or it's all wrong, I just have to get rid of it. So when I was younger, because I've been writing all my life, I hated planning. You need to plan. The more you plan, the more time you will save. And yeah, like I plan absolutely everything now, especially now I'm doing a PhD. Like, you can't afford not to have a well planned out like a timeline of things you're gonna do things in, even day to day. Like, I've got a really strict plan for stuff to do today after I finish filming this. So to me, planning is the absolute key for writing well, because if I do it right the first time I don't have to go back and do it again, because like I said, I'm lazy. I'm not doing it again. When I was younger, I used to watch my brothers do jobs around the house, and they do like a really bad job the first time around. My mum would make them come back and do it again. So when I did it, I'd do it right the first time round, because it's quicker to spend longer on it the first time than do a short job, then have to do it properly the second time. It takes so much longer to do it twice if you just do it well the first time. So yeah. So I finished writing it, finished editing it. I was really happy with it. So I did a synopsis, I did a cover letter, I did a biography, because sometimes agents ask for that, and I started sending it to agents. Now, because my novel is science fiction, there aren't very many agents, in England anyway, that will take a science fiction book. Because an agent needs to be able to understand your book and the market of the book to be able to sell it to a publisher. And science fiction, not that it's not popular, but being able to enjoy a science fiction book or a science fiction film or TV show isn't the same as being able to really read and understand everything that goes into one. Not even I could with a hard science fiction book, so I do understand. So if you do want to write science fiction, you need to be mindful that whilst the market for it is quite big, like it's a popular genre, getting it published is a lot harder than other genres of books. Like if my book, I'd kept it as I wanted it and just made it a young adult romance, that would have been so much easier, because publishers love young adult romances and they're so much easier for an agent to get to grips with than a science fiction book. So I did get a few agents interested, but ultimately they all turned me down, and this was whilst I was still on my degree. I went on to do 2 masters, neither at my university. I did one at the university I'm currently at, and another one that was a distance learning one. Yep, I did them at the same time because I like doing work even though I'm lazy, apparently. Don't know why. So the distance learning one was only a year long, and the one I did at my current university was 2 years long. So in the second year of my university degree, I was still trying to find an agent for this. Obviously there are less agents, so they were harder to find. And yeah, I really wanted my cover letter to be really good, which I'll do a video on it if you want me to, because obviously it was a successful cover letter since my book was published. So I believe I just started the second year of my masters, and because I'm a student, obviously I get emails from NUS, because that's the people I have my student discount card with. And I got a email promoting this publisher that published authors who were 22 and under. It's actually my publisher, which is called Salad Pages, does 25 and under now. So if you're 25 and under, you got a book. Get it in. I'll put the link to submissions down below. So I sent them, I think, the cover letter inside, like the body of the email, then I attached the first 3 chapters and the synopsis, I'm pretty sure. So that was like mid-October 2018. Then I went away actually a couple of weeks later because I was in the north of France for the armistice. We didn't have very good Wi-Fi connection there, so I couldn't check my emails. So I had to wait till I got home, and on the night we did get home, I did go on my laptop and check them properly. And I had a few emails in my junk, so I went to it. I had a reply, and it was the publisher from Salad Pages asking me to send the full manuscript, because she'd read my cover letter, the first 3 chapters, the rest of the synopsis, and she really, really enjoyed it. So I was like, okay. So I was very nervous. This has only happened a handful of times before, so I was like, oh, gosh, I just hope you like it. And then a few more weeks went by and she got back to me and she said, I love it. Can I come to your university and meet you? And obviously I said yes. So we talked about the novel. She got to know me. She wanted to know what my experience with hearing voices were, which obviously still hear them now. And we talked about some things that she would want editing for the novel, which were like major edits, things she wanted changing to the plot of the book. And then she asked me, because obviously it was a trilogy, what was going to happen in the next 2 books, which I had planned out. I hadn't started writing them though, I just planned them out. So then we walked back to the train station together, and then a few days later he sent me over the contract to sign. for Nightmare Scenario. Yeah, that was pretty much it. Like, we went through all the editing, also the different rounds of design for the cover, which is awesome, by the way. I will put the link to the designer in the description. This book means a lot to me. Like, I've wanted to be an author since I was 3 years old, which is when I also started learning how to write, so it would mean the world if people read it. Not necessarily from, I mean, obviously if you read it you'd have to buy it, and by buying it obviously it gives me money, but honestly the money thing doesn't really, I mean, obviously everybody wants to be secure and stuff, but I'm more bothered about people reading it. I think more authors are bothered about people reading their stuff rather than the money aspect of it. Like, I've written fan fiction since I was 14 years old, and never have I once obviously been paid for doing any of it. But I don't care, because like my payment is the comments I get and how I can interact with my readers and how I can tailor it to them if there's only one person reading. Like, I write the story for them as much as I do for my own enjoyment. You know, if there's only one person reading, I'll ask them like, well, what do you want to see? You're the only one enjoying it, I'll write it for you. Like, I don't mind. Like, a lot of my friends, I'll write them fan fictions for Christmas or for their birthday, and I just love it so much. And this is probably a bit narcissistic, but I also really enjoy going back and rereading my own stuff. Like, occasionally I will go back and reread some of this. Not the full thing, like, I've read it like 150 times now. Like, I don't need to reread this again for about 20 years. But I'll go back and reread my fanfiction pretty frequently, because so I remember on my first day on my degree at Liverpool, all the tutors, we went around all the tutors and they all told us why they wrote. And I can't remember which tutor said it, and I can't remember who the quote was from. I'll see if I can find it and I'll put it on the screen somewhere. If it's not there, you'll know I didn't find who originally said it. But it was something like, I write, so I'll always have something to read. So if you want to be a writer, or you're struggling with your writing, try and write something that you'd enjoy reading. Because if you're not going to enjoy reading it, then the chances are you probably won't enjoy writing it either. And yeah, I just love writing. I write every single day. My PhD's in literature, creative writing and Asia Pacific studies, and it's actually to help writing the second and third novels. And the second book actually is going to come out this October, so in a few months. I will put the pre-order link for it down below, and you can get to see the amazing cover art for the second one. So yeah, I hope you enjoy my book if you read it. If you do, please leave a comment down below, or you can at me on Twitter or Instagram, and can you let me know who your favourite character is? I keep a tally on my phone of who's everyone's favourite character is, and no one ever picks Gracie. I'm so insulted. Like, she's a character based on me and no one's picked her. But I asked my PhD supervisor who her favourite was, and she said one of the voices. And not to spoil it for you, but the voices are horrible. So I was like, out of all the people to pick, why would you pick one of the nastiest people in the book? No wait, she didn't even pick one of the voices, she picked the main character's mum, who's arguably even worse. Anyway, I absolutely love writing this, and I very narcissistically also enjoy rereading it from time to time. If you buy it, then I hope you enjoy it, and please let me know who your favourite character is. But if you don't buy it, I hope the reason you're watching this video is because you want to know more about writing. And if you have any questions about writing, whether it's about writing novels, writing romance, writing science fiction, please leave a comment and I will try and help. If it's a big question, I'll make a video on it. If it's a small question, I'll reply to you. But yeah, that's it for today. Bye!